Okay, we're doing page 5 of number solutions. First thing we're going to do is we're going to review rounding. Remember with rounding, first thing they're going to tell you is like what place value you need to round to. And then once they tell you what place value round to, then you're going to determine whether you keep that number as is or if you round it up to the next number. And so for example, let's look at rounding this number to the nearest 100ths. First, you're going to identify what is the nearest hundred. So 100 would be 600. It would be the 6 there. Okay, so the thing is, the 6 is going to be the last number we're going to keep, and everything to the right we're just going to zero out. But before we zero everything out, we're going to look at the number following the 6. We're going to look to see if it's 5 and above or 4 and below. If it's 5 and above, then we're going to round the 6 up to a 7. If it's 4 and below, we're going to keep the 6. Now remember, we do not look at any of the other numbers to the right. We only look at the first number. So in this case, the 5 is 5 and above, so we're going to make it into a 7, 7, and then make the other two digits into 0, 0, 0. Now what about correct to the nearest 10th? To correct to the nearest 10th, we're looking to keep the 5 here. And we might round it up to a 6 depending on the next number. The next number is a 4, so it's below 5, so we are not going to round the 5 up. We're going to keep the 5 as is, so it's going to be 7650. What about the nearest hundredth? The nearest hundredth is going to be the 2 here, right? Because the 3 is tenths, 2 is hundredths. Okay, so we're going to say, okay, do we keep the 2 or do we round it up to a 3? Well, we look to the number to the right of it. The 1 is not enough to make the 2 round up to a 3, so we do keep it as a 2. Okay, and then correct to the nearest units or ones, we're going to look at, okay, the 4 here. Are we going to keep it as a 4 or are we going to round it up to a 5? Well, we're going to look at the number to the right. It's a 3, so we do not round the number up 4. We keep it as 4. Okay. Now, you can see that I've divided up the number 7,000 blah, blah, blah into place values. And just a couple tricky ones. The tenths, it's the leftmost number that is to the right of the decimal point. There is no oneths. There's only a ones. There's no one. So the tenth is the first, the leftmost one. Okay? Some people kind of forget that. They think the hundredths might be like 2 places over, but, you know, since there's no once, then that doesn't happen. Okay, write these numbers correct to the nearest unit. And so, nearest unit would mean we want to keep the 8 as the last number, the 4 is the last number, the 8 is the last number, and the 6 is the last number. And again, we just look at the number immediately to the right of the decimal point to decide if we're going to round up or down. This is just going to be 358. Since the 4 less than 5, we do not round up. This would just be 25, right? Because the 4 would go up to a 5 because the next number is a 5. 109, because of this 9, we're going to round the 8 to a 9. And then 10,016 is going to stay 6 because the next number is 0. Okay, write these numbers correct to the nearest 10. So we're going to look at the 4. We want to keep the 4 or make it one bigger. 1, 6. Okay, and what number are we going to look at to see if we round? We're going to look at the 1 in the units or the ones place. Okay, so does the 6 make the 4 round up? Yes, it does. 250. Does the 9 make the 0 round up? Yes, it does. 110. Does the 5 make the 1 round up? Yes, it does. 1020. And what about the 9? Does it make the 6 round up? Yes, 270. Okay. Write these numbers correct to the nearest 100. So we're going to underline the 100 place. Okay, and then we're going to look at the next number, which is a 4, a 5, a 4, and a 6 to see if we're going to round the underlined number up or keep the same. This is going to keep the same. This is going to round up to 200. This is going to round up to round down to 1200, and this we're going to round down to round up to 3100. Okay. Write these numbers correct to the nearest 1,000. So we're going to have 5,000, oops, and 1,000, 9,000, and there is no 1,000 there. We'll just underline the space next to it. And then we're going to look at the number to the right, and we're going to use that to decide if we're going to round the 1,000 up or down. So for the first one, the 6 rounds the 5 up, so it's going to be 106,000. We just fill in with zeros to the right. 2,000. 6 is going to round the 9 up. So do you see how the 9 becomes a 10? So it's going to be 10,000. And then here, you can say, oh, right now what we have here is a 0. So we're going to keep the 0, or we're going to round it up to 1,000. And the 9 is going to round it up to 1,000, right? Okay. Write down a number that is correct to the nearest one. Write down a number that correct to the nearest 100 is 200. So we could write down any number, like it could be 201, it could be 249. Right? It could be any number between 201 and 249. Write down a number that is correct to the nearest 1,000 is 3,000. So we could put, and for this problem, we could also put 199, right? What about for number 6? We could put 3,001. We could put 3,400. Okay, this would round down to a 3,000 if we were looking for the nearest 1,000, right? Write down a number that's correct to the nearest unit is 6. So we could put like 5.5. We could put 6.3, etc. Okay. Write these numbers correct to 1 decimal place. So 1 decimal place means we want to have one number to the right of the decimal point. So these are the last numbers we want to keep, and anything to the right we want to get rid of. We're just going to look at the 7 and the 6 and the 0 and the 9 to know if we're going to round up or down. So the 7 we're going to look at, and we're going to say, okay, yeah, we are going to round the 6 up to a 7. The 6 we're going to look at, and we're going to say, okay, we are going to round the 0 up to a 1. Here we're going to look at the 0 and say that we are going to keep the 4 as is. Here we're going to look at the 9 and we're going to say we're going to round the 0 up to a 1. Finally, write these numbers correct to 2 decimal places. So here we want to keep the second decimal as the last decimal. And then we are going to look at the next number, the 4, the 5, Here we want to keep the 2, and we're going to look at the 0 to see if we round up or down. Look at the 5 to see if we round up and down. So, okay, so 0.00, and the 4 is not enough to round the 0 up, so we keep it as 0. So we could keep 0.00, which is a weird looking number, but that 0 means something, right? 201.3, and we want to go to 1 because the 5 rounds the 0 up to a 1, right? 9.62, and we're going to keep the 2 as is because the 0 is not enough to make it round up. 28.08, because the 5 is enough to make the 7 turn into an 8, right? And so that's it for page 5.